All right, let's just dive right in. We're going to tackle one of the absolute biggest questions out there. What is time? And we're going to explore a pretty radical new answer that honestly might just change how you see, well, everything.
So let me just throw this at you right from the get-go. What if that feeling of time passing by is just an illusion? What if time isn't some journey you're being swept along on, but it's simply the location where you are, right here, right now?
You know, we all use that metaphor, right? Time flowing like a river. But just stop and think about it for a second. A river has to flow through something, like a landscape in a riverbed. So what's the riverbed for time? That's a question physics has never really had a good answer for. And, that's usually a pretty big sign that we might be asking the wrong question in the first place.
So what if we've had it all backwards? The whole idea we're exploring here is a huge shift in perspective. Moving away from time as this continuous river that carries us along and looking at it more like the discrete tick of a clock. It's not something that flows, but a fundamental property of the system, of where we happen to be.
Okay, so to really get our heads around this, let's start with the one tool we've ever built to interact with time. Let's take a look at what a clock actually does. I mean, think about it. It doesn't matter if it's a super accurate atomic clock counting the vibrations of an atom, or an old grandfather clock counting the swings of its pendulum, or even an ancient sundial tracking a shadow across the ground. They all share one fundamental secret.
Every single clock ever invented does the exact same thing. It counts the cycles of something that repeats. It counts oscillations. It counts swings. It counts rotations. See? It's not measuring a flow. It's just counting repetitions.
And this leads to a really fascinating conclusion. A clock isn't some kind of speedometer for the river of time. No, it's a phase detector. It's just a device that tells you your position along a repeating cycle, a wave. Think of it like the second hand on your watch. It's not measuring how fast time is going. It's just pointing to a specific location on a repeating circle.
So, if time is just our position on a wave, then what is the wave? Well, this brings us to the core idea of mode identity theory, which paints this incredible new geometric picture of the entire universe. Now, I know this sounds complicated, but we can break it down into 3 simple steps. First, just picture all of space as the surface of a big 3D sphere, okay? Now second, imagine inside that sphere there's this weird, twisted surface called a Möbius strip. That's a surface that only has one side and one edge. And third, that special surface has a single continuous edge that forms a perfect circle. And here's the punchline. That geometric boundary, that one-dimensional circle at the very edge of the universe's structure, is time. Not a metaphor. It's a literal, physical place.
In this model, the universe is what's called a standing wave. It vibrates, but it doesn't actually travel anywhere. It just is. And what we experience as the forward march of time, well, that's just us observing our position as we advance along the edge of that static wave.
Okay, so if time is a physical geometric circle, that leads to a truly mind-bending consequence. It means time itself has to be quantized. It's not smooth and continuous. Instead, it comes in these tiny, indivisible packets, kind of like pixels on a screen. Time has to have a smallest possible piece.
Now, what's really important to understand here is that the underlying geometry of this model isn't just some random guess. The math itself actually forces a very specific structure. And it turns out the largest possible number of discrete, symmetrical steps you can fit onto this structure is exactly 120.
And if time comes in these little packets, this theory even gives that packet a name, a chronon. It's the smallest possible tick the universe's clock can make, the fundamental atom of time, if you will. It's a precise phase advance of pi over 30. Any change smaller than that is literally physically meaningless.
This completely reframes how we think about cosmic history. The age of the universe, that 13.8 billion years, it's not a measure of how long the river has flowed. Nope, it's just the current position of the hand on a giant cosmic dial. It's telling us what time it is on the wave, not how far we've come.
Okay, so this is a beautiful abstract idea, but does it actually connect to reality? Well, this is where the model gets put to the test against one of the strangest, but also most proven facts of physics, time dilation.
To get there, we're going to need one more analogy. Picture that universal standing wave like a plucked guitar string. Right in the middle, it vibrates a lot. That's high amplitude. But at the ends, where it's pinned down, it doesn't move at all. That's low amplitude. Your position determines how loudly the wave is vibrating right where you are.
And this brings us straight to gravity.
And listen, this is not science fiction. This is just engineering. Your phone's GPS works because we account for this every single day. A satellite orbiting way up high is in a weaker gravitational field. So in our guitar string analogy, it's at a louder spot on the wave. Its clock literally ticks faster, and if we didn't correct for that, your GPS would be useless in days.
Velocity does something really similar. There's this particle called a muon. It's created high up in our atmosphere, and it should decay long before it ever reaches the ground. But it does reach us. How? Well, because it's moving so incredibly fast relative to us, its internal clock ticks slower from our point of view. We actually see it live long enough to make the entire journey. So what this theory is suggesting is that gravity and velocity are really just two different ways of getting the same result. Gravity changes your position on the wave to a spot with a different amplitude, and high velocity, from our perspective, kind of squishes the very edge that you're sampling. Both of them change the rate at which you tick through time.
So, let's bring all this together. What is the final picture that this theory paints of your place, of our place in the universe? That feeling that time is passing, that relentless push from the past into the future, is just the experience of your consciousness registering its position on the circular edge of a great cosmic standing wave. You aren't moving through time. You are simply at a time. Which, of course, brings us full circle right back to where we started. Time isn't a river that's carrying you somewhere else. It's the place you're standing right now. The cosmic wave ticks, and your awareness registers that tick as a moment. And that leaves us with one last fascinating question to just chew on. If your local tick rate, your actual experience of time's passage, isn't absolute, but depends entirely on your motion and your place in a gravitational field, what does that really say about the objective nature of the reality we all think we share?